Whenever a story about the British royal family appears, the world quickly turns its attention to a few important names: King Charles III, Queen Camilla, and Prince William. But today, the question is not who will become the next king. The real question is, who is actually carrying the responsibilities of the British monarchy right now? On social media, we often see claims that King Charles is about to step away from his responsibilities, that Prince William has suddenly been given power, or that a major secret power transfer has already taken place inside the palace. But there is a big difference between these claims and the real constitutional system. First, let us make one thing absolutely clear. King Charles III is still the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. According to the official royal family website, Charles became king after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, on September 8, 2022. And at present, the official royal family information continues to record King Charles's official activities and engagements. For example, in July 2026, the king visited the Isle of Man, and earlier in 2026, he took part in the Commonwealth Games and several other official events. So, if a headline says, "Charles has handed the power of the monarchy to William," we should not immediately believe it. Because to understand Prince William's role, we first need to understand his current constitutional position. Prince William, known today as the Prince of Wales, is the heir to the throne. The official royal family website clearly describes William as the heir to the throne. It also explains that he carries out royal duties and official engagements in support of the king. In other words, William is the future monarch. But that does not mean that he is already king, or that he has taken King Charles's place. And this is the difference that many sensational stories on social media often ignore. Now, there is another important part of this story: King Charles's health and workload. The news of Charles's cancer diagnosis became public in 2024. At that time, the palace adjusted some of his public-facing duties for a period, while he continued to carry out state business and official paperwork. But having an illness or undergoing treatment does not automatically mean that a monarch has given up the throne. And this is one of the most important points for understanding the whole story. A monarch can reduce some public engagements. The monarch can change their workload during recovery. Other senior members of the royal family can take on more responsibilities. But calling these things abdication, succession, or a transfer of the crown is something completely different, and this brings us to another important name: Queen Camilla. There are also many different claims about Camilla's role on the internet. Some say that she is the most powerful person inside the palace. Others claim that her influence is being removed because Prince William's role is becoming stronger. But the reality is much more complicated. Queen Camilla carries out official duties alongside the king, and the official royal family diary records many of her public engagements. The official royal family information also records joint engagements involving the king and queen during 2026. So, before accepting any claim about a secret conflict inside the palace, we need to ask some basic questions. Has Buckingham Palace confirmed it? Has any official constitutional document been released? Has the story been independently confirmed by credible British media? And most importantly, is this a real event, or is it simply a story created for social media? That is exactly what we are going to examine in this documentary. Because the real structure of power inside the British monarchy cannot always be understood through photographs, palace appearances, or headlines alone. Behind it is an entire constitutional system, and within that system, the roles of the king, the heir, and the queen consort are different. In the next part, we will look at one of the most important questions. If King Charles reduces his responsibilities in the future, can Prince William automatically take over his role? And would that mean William had effectively become king? This is where the real constitutional story of the British monarchy begins. Now we come to the question that has made this story so sensational on social media. If King Charles reduces his responsibilities, can Prince William simply take over his role? The answer is not simply because William is the heir, and this is where one of the most important constitutional rules of the British monarchy comes in. Prince William is the heir to the throne, That means, under the current succession system, he is first in line to become king after Charles. The official royal family website describes William as the eldest son of King Charles and the heir to the throne. But being the heir and being the reigning monarch are two completely different constitutional positions. British succession is not decided by a private palace document. According to the royal family's official explanation, succession is regulated by Acts of Parliament. Its constitutional foundation is connected to laws such as the Bill of Rights 1689 and the Act of Settlement 1701. This means that if William becomes king after Charles in the future, it would not simply happen because Charles wrote a private handwritten order. Succession is part of a constitutional process, and there is another important difference we need to understand. If King Charles reduces some of his public duties for a period, that does not automatically mean abdication. Abdication means that a monarch gives up the throne. Succession means that the throne passes to the next monarch. Temporary absence, or an inability to perform certain functions, is different. The British constitutional system has arrangements for situations where a monarch may temporarily be unable to carry out certain duties. One important arrangement is the system of councillors of state. According to information from the UK Parliament, councillors of state are senior members of the royal family who can perform certain constitutional functions on behalf of the monarch in specific circumstances, such as when the monarch is outside the United Kingdom. King Charles also requested in 2022 that Princess Anne and Prince Edward be added to this group, and this distinction is extremely important. If the king cannot personally carry out every official duty for a period of time, the constitutional system already has mechanisms to deal with that situation. It does not necessarily mean that Prince William suddenly receives all the power of the king, and this is where many viral social media stories turn a real constitutional system into a dramatic palace power struggle. In reality, the British monarchy is not based only on personal relationships within the royal family. Its responsibilities and authority exist within a wider system involving law, parliament, government, and established constitutional procedures. UK Parliament information also explains that the Crown is an important part of the UK's constitutional system, and that the monarch's constitutional functions operate within a wider framework involving the government and ministers. So what does this mean for Prince William? William already carries out official and public duties in support of the king. According to the official royal family website, the Prince of Wales carries out public, charitable, and official duties in the UK and overseas, and supports the king in his work. So, if William becomes more visible, or takes on more official work, that does not automatically prove that the monarchy's power has secretly been transferred to him. A future king carrying out more duties and the current king giving up the throne are not the same thing, and this is the key difference we need to understand. Now, another question comes up. Will William automatically become king after Charles? If Charles's reign ends in the normal way, meaning the monarch dies, the constitutional principle is that the new sovereign succeeds immediately. The royal family's official explanation of the Accession Council says that, after the previous monarch's death, the new sovereign succeeds to the throne, followed by the formal proclamation of the new monarch through the Accession Council. So saying, William is next in line to become king is correct. But saying, William is already king would be incorrect unless an actual constitutional event had taken place. And this difference is one of the most important parts of our documentary. Because on social media, someone can show a photograph of William standing in an important ceremony in place of Charles. Or William may represent the monarchy at an important international event. Then a headline may appear saying, "Power has been transferred." But a photograph and constitutional reality are not always the same thing. The official royal family diary continues to record official engagements involving the king and queen. So before accepting any dramatic claim, we should ask a simple question. Has an official constitutional change taken place? Or has the distribution of royal duties simply changed? This distinction is also extremely important for understanding Queen Camilla's position, because the internet often presents two completely opposite stories about Camilla. One says that Camilla is the most powerful person inside the palace. The other claims that William's growing influence means Camilla's authority is about to disappear. But do either of these claims accurately describe the British constitutional system? That brings us to the next, and perhaps most misunderstood, part of this story. What is Queen Camilla's real constitutional position? Is she part of the succession? Can she challenge William's authority? And if Charles reduces his duties in the future, what would Camilla's actual role be? We will answer those questions in the next part. Now we come to the name that has caused the most confusion in this entire story, Queen Camilla. Is Camilla the successor to the British throne? Can she challenge Prince William's authority? And if King Charles reduces his duties in the future, can Camilla take control of the monarchy's decision-making? To understand these questions, we first need to make one very important point clear. Queen Camilla is the wife of King Charles, but she is not the successor to the throne. She is not part of the succession in the same way that Prince William is. In other words, if Charles's reign ends in the future, Camilla does not automatically become the ruling monarch in her own right. This is an important distinction. Camilla's current position is that of queen consort, meaning she is queen as the wife of the reigning king. And this is why the claim often seen on social media that Camilla is fighting William for the throne does not accurately describe the constitutional reality. But that does not mean Camilla's role is unimportant. In fact, Queen Camilla is a senior working member of the royal family and carries out many important public and official duties alongside the king. According to official royal family information, Camilla is also included among the current counselors of state. And this is where the story becomes more interesting. Because being a counselor of state and being a successor to the throne are two completely different things. If the king is temporarily unable to carry out certain official duties, for example, because of illness or because he is outside the country, two or more counselors of state can perform certain official functions on his behalf. According to the official royal family explanation, counselors of state can perform a number of official duties for the monarch. These can include attending Privy Council meetings, signing routine documents, and receiving the credentials of new ambassadors. But their powers are not unlimited. Certain important constitutional functions cannot be delegated to them. For example, there are restrictions involving Commonwealth matters, certain functions connected to dissolving Parliament, creating peers, and appointing the Prime Minister. The direct meaning is simple. Camilla has a constitutional role, but she does not become the monarch in place of the king. And the same basic distinction applies to Prince William. William is the heir. Camilla is the queen. But their constitutional positions are different. Now imagine that King Charles reduces his workload for a period of time. Two different headlines could appear online. The first might say, William takes on more royal duties. The second might say, William takes control of the monarchy. They may sound almost the same, but their constitutional meaning could be completely different. A senior royal taking on more duties does not prove that the crown has been transferred. That is why, whenever we see a viral palace story, the first question should be, has an official constitutional change actually taken place? And based on the official information available, there is no verified document showing that King Charles has permanently transferred the authority of the monarchy to Prince William, or issued a secret handwritten order removing Queen Camilla's household from decision-making. This distinction is one of the most important facts in this entire documentary. Because the viral story we started with made a supposed secret document and a supposed handwritten sentence the center of the entire story. But if such a constitutional document really existed, its implications would be extremely serious. And then the issue would not simply be about the royal family. It could involve Parliament, constitutional law, and the wider role of government. That is why an anonymous source, a social media post, or a dramatic YouTube narration cannot be treated as proof of a constitutional change. Now look at Camilla's other role. She is not simply a ceremonial figure inside the palace. She carries out domestic and international engagements alongside the king and is involved with a number of public and charitable causes. The official royal family diary records joint and separate activities involving the king and queen during 2026. This makes one thing clear. Camilla is still part of the working structure of the monarchy. But being a working member of the royal family and being the constitutional ruler are two different things. This is the line we need to remember, and perhaps this is one reason why stories about Camilla spread so easily. People can see influence in palace photographs, but constitutional authority is not always visible. Authority comes from law, constitutional conventions, and formal procedures. Now the question is, if Charles reduces his duties in the future, could William's responsibilities increase? Yes, that could happen in practical terms. William already carries out official duties in support of the king, and if the king's workload is reduced at some point, senior working royals could take on more engagements and responsibilities. But that would not automatically end Charles's reign, and it would not automatically remove Camilla from the monarchy. Both could continue to perform different roles. The real question would be, which responsibility is being given to which person and under which constitutional mechanism? That is the question that separates genuine royal news from a sensational social media story. So if you ever see a headline saying, "Charles secretly removes Camilla from power," do not believe it just because the headline sounds dramatic. First ask, has Buckingham Palace confirmed it? Has Parliament or an official constitutional source confirmed it? Has reputable British media independently reported it? And has any real document been made public? If the answer is no, then it should be treated as an unverified claim, not confirmed news. But there is still one major question left. If Charles reduces his duties in the future, how much responsibility could Prince William actually take on? Could he perform some constitutional functions on behalf of the king? Could the counselors of state system become relevant? And most importantly, could William's and Camilla's roles actually come into conflict? Or is the British constitutional system already prepared for such a situation? These questions will take us into the final part, where we will look at the situation in which the king's workload is reduced and Prince William takes on more responsibilities. And there we will make one thing clear. Should this really be called a power transfer, or is it simply a redistribution of royal duties? So far, we have made two things clear. First, Prince William is the heir to the throne, and second, Queen Camilla has an important role, but she is not the successor to the throne. Now comes the biggest question. If King Charles reduces his public responsibilities in the future, how would the monarchy actually continue to operate? This is where the social media story about a power transfer is very different from the real constitutional system, because an increase in responsibilities is not the same thing as a transfer of the crown. Prince William already supports the king. The official royal family information shows that the Prince of Wales carries out public and official duties in the UK and overseas, and represents the king at important occasions. So, if William takes on more responsibilities in the future, that would not automatically be an unusual constitutional event. But if the king were temporarily unable to carry out certain official functions, another question would arise. Which duties could William perform himself, and which would have to be handled through a constitutional mechanism? This is where the system of councillors of state becomes important. According to the UK Parliament's information, councillors of state can perform certain legal and constitutional functions on behalf of the monarch in specific circumstances. The current framework includes the sovereign's consort, Queen Camilla, as well as eligible senior members of the royal family. So, if King Charles ever needed to reduce his workload for a period of time, it would not mean that Buckingham Palace would simply hold a secret meeting and give Prince William all the king's power. The real system is much more structured, and this is exactly why we need to be careful with headlines, such as, "William has taken control of the monarchy." Because responsibility and constitutional authority are not the same thing. Imagine that William begins carrying out more official engagements over the next few months. He meets foreign leaders. He attends important ceremonies. He represents the monarchy at major events. He carries out duties that might normally involve the king. None of these things, by themselves, prove that Charles has stopped being king. Instead, they could simply show that senior members of the royal family are helping with the monarch's workload. Recent events have already shown that senior royals can represent the king at official occasions, while Charles remains the monarch. This is important because the monarchy is not simply one person's daily schedule. It is an institution in which different senior royals carry out different responsibilities, and this is also where Queen Camilla's role becomes important. If Charles reduces his workload, Camilla's official responsibilities would not automatically disappear. In the same way, if William takes on more responsibilities, that would not automatically mean Camilla has been removed from the monarchy. Both can continue to perform different roles. The real question would be, which responsibility is being given to which person and under which constitutional mechanism? Now, there is another important point. Prince William would not become king simply because he takes on more work. If Charles reduces some public engagements, William does not automatically become king. If William attends more ceremonies, he does not become king. If William represents the monarch at an important meeting, he does not automatically become king. And even if Charles temporarily steps back from public life, that does not automatically mean succession has taken place. Succession and temporary delegation are different constitutional processes. This is exactly the fact that sensational videos often leave out. Instead, a dramatic story is created. Charles is stepping back. William is taking over. Camilla is losing power. But these three statements should not automatically be treated as one event. In reality, several different things could happen. Charles could reduce some duties because of his health or workload. William and other senior royals could take on more public responsibilities, and the constitutional system could handle any necessary functions through its existing rules. That would be an institutional process, not necessarily a palace power struggle. Now, could Charles permanently give his place on the throne to William? If by give his place we mean the crown, that cannot simply happen through an informal palace decision. The British succession is governed by an established constitutional framework. The UK Parliament's 2026 briefing explains the legal framework surrounding succession and the arrangements that apply when royal functions need to be carried out on behalf of the monarch. That is why the secret handwritten order described in the original viral script is not a credible explanation of how succession works, and this is one of the most important lessons from our documentary. Behind the major events of the British monarchy, there is a constitutional process. What we see may be a ceremony, but actual constitutional authority comes from law and established constitutional arrangements. Now think about the viral claim we discussed earlier. The story said that Charles had written a secret sentence saying, "No authority granted through this document may be challenged by the Queen's household." If a real constitutional order like that existed, it would be a very significant matter. It would have major constitutional implications. But no verified document supporting that claim has been made public. So presenting that story as fact would not be responsible. And this brings us to the final and most important part of our documentary. Because now we need to put all of the viral claims on the table. Has Charles really transferred power to William? Has Camilla been removed from decision-making? Does the secret handwritten order actually exist? Have William and Catherine already become the new center of the monarchy? And finally, how much of this viral story is actually true, and how much is fiction? In the final part, we will fact-check these claims one by one. Because sometimes the biggest royal story is not the one that sounds the most dramatic. It is the one that can stand up to official records, documents, and constitutional facts. Now we come to the most important part of this entire story. Has King Charles really transferred the power of the monarchy to Prince William? Has Queen Camilla been removed from the palace's decision-making? Does the secret handwritten order actually exist? And has a major constitutional change already taken place inside Buckingham Palace? Based on the verified information available, these claims have not been confirmed. First, let's look at King Charles's current position. The official royal family website still identifies Charles III as the king. He became king after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, on September 8, 2022. The official royal family website also continues to publish information about the work and activities of the king and queen. The court circular, which is the official record of royal engagements, continues to record royal activities in 2026. So, the claim that Charles has suddenly given up the responsibilities of the monarchy, or secretly handed king-like authority to William, is not supported by the official record. Now, let's look at Prince William. William is certainly in an extremely important position. The official royal family website describes the Prince of Wales as the heir to the throne. It also explains that he carries out public and official duties in support of the king, both in the United Kingdom and overseas. That means William is the future monarch. But being the future monarch and being the current monarch are two different things. And this is the difference that the original viral story completely removed. Now, let's look at Queen Camilla. The official royal family information identifies Camilla as the Queen, and her role includes supporting the king through official and public duties. The royal family's official website also continues to record the work of the king and queen. In 2026, for example, the king and queen undertook a 4-day state visit to the United States. So the claim that Camilla has suddenly been removed from the monarchy is not supported by the official information. Now we come to the alleged royal continuity and succession order. The original story claimed that Charles had created a secret document, given William new authority, and personally written a sentence preventing Camilla's household from challenging that authority. But no verified official record of this alleged document has been presented. And when there is no official document, official statement, or credible independent reporting to support such a major claim, it should not be presented as fact. The same applies to the other dramatic events described in the original story. There is no verified evidence for the alleged secret meeting, the supposed power retention plan prepared by Camilla's staff, the handwritten restriction, or the alleged confidential document that would end Camilla's palace access. So presenting these events as real news would be misleading. But that does not mean Prince William's future importance is small. Quite the opposite. William remains the heir to the throne, and when the succession eventually occurs, he is the person expected to become king. The official royal family website confirms his position as heir to the throne. So the future transition is real, but the secret power transfer story is not verified. And this is exactly what separates a responsible documentary from a clickbait video. A responsible documentary says, William is the heir to the throne. A clickbait version says, Charles has secretly handed William the crown. The first statement is supported by official information. The second requires evidence, and that evidence has not been presented. So what could happen if Charles reduces his responsibilities in the future? The answer is not necessarily a dramatic palace power struggle. The British constitutional system already has established mechanisms for situations in which royal functions may need to be carried out on behalf of the monarch. The system of councillors of state is part of that wider constitutional framework. In other words, the monarchy does not depend on one private family meeting. It operates through laws, constitutional conventions, and formal procedures. And this is why we should not judge royal news only by photographs or social media headlines. Sometimes William may appear at an important event. Sometimes Camilla may appear alongside the king. Sometimes another senior royal may represent the monarch at an official occasion. But seeing someone perform an important duty does not automatically mean that the crown has been transferred. Because in the British monarchy, symbolism and constitutional authority are not the same thing. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson from this entire story. Charles's current position is real. William's position as heir is real. Camilla's position as queen is real. But the secret handwritten order, the alleged palace power struggle, and the claimed plan to remove Camilla from decision-making have not been verified. So if you are making a Facebook video about this subject, the most responsible conclusion is simple. The power transfer story circulating on social media should not be treated as confirmed Buckingham Palace news. Based on the available official information, King Charles remains the reigning monarch, Prince William remains the heir to the throne, and Queen Camilla continues to perform her official royal role. And perhaps that is the most interesting part of the entire story. The future of the British monarchy is certainly being prepared. But preparing for the future and transferring the current crown are not the same thing. William is the future king. Charles is the current king, and Camilla is the current queen. Everything else involving secret documents, handwritten orders, and a hidden palace power struggle should be treated as an unverified claim, unless reliable evidence appears. That is the difference between a viral royal story and a verified royal documentary.